Do we have visitors in the room?
Yes, we do have some attendees from the public, some folks that are and are not consent agenda. So we have some folks listening in.
Very good. Well, we'll get started then. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting of the Baltimore County Landmarks Preservation Commission is now in session. Please note that this meeting is being audio and video recorded, I guess. We are your volunteer representatives appointed by our county councilperson or county executive and entrusted to monitor renovations and additions to our Baltimore County historic resources. We review and approve nominations to the Baltimore County Preliminary Landmarks List and comment on National Register nominations. Additionally, we are charged with evaluating submissions to the Baltimore County Historic Tax Credit Program that encourages the appropriate maintenance and renovation of designated historic properties. Would the commissioners please introduce themselves by name and county council district or representation? I guess we could start with the numbered districts and then go to the executive appointments. Or we can go in order on the screen here. Let's do that. That's better. And then anybody who's not listed can jump in. Rob Brennan, District 1.
Mitch Kelman, executive appointment.
Ed Horde, executive appointment.
John, you there? John Holman? Vince?
District 5.
Vince Johnson?
Sorry, I didn't unmute myself. Vince Johnson, District 1.
Wendy, you there? Steve? I know you're there, Steve.
Your turn, Steve.
Yeah. Steve Meyer, executive appointment.
Thank you. Faith?
No Faith.
Okay. Marina?
Marina Novaes, executive appointment.
Katie?
No Katie.
Okay. John Schmidt?
No John.
Okay.
Right.
I did see him earlier.
So,
Ray Scott?
No.
no Ray.
Katub Syed?
No Katub.
Okay. David?
I'm David Thaler. I'm here. I'm an executive appointment, and it is with very mixed emotions that I'd like to announce that tonight will be my last meeting. I think this is the end of my fourth term and about the 12th year on the board, and what a pleasure it has been.
Well, we thank you, David, for all those years and all your camaraderie and expertise. Chris?
Chris Weston, District 2.
And then is there anybody we have not mentioned? Just looking at the list here, I don't see anyone. All right. So I think we will try to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. If you all want to chime in. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of
the United States
of
America, to the republic
For which it stands,
for which it stands,
nation, under God,
God, indivisible,
Indivisible,
liberty and
liberty, and justice
justice
for
for
all.
all.
I'm not sure we'll ever get better at that, but at least we attempt. The Landmarks Preservation Commission operates under the authorities, standards, and requirements of Title VII, Article 32 of the Baltimore County Code. We refer to the United States Secretary of the Interior Standards Rehabilitation as administered by the National Park Service. This is the accepted national standard for historic preservation projects. Our own Baltimore County Historic Preservation Design Guidelines directly reference and incorporate the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation. Tonight, in terms of order and protocol, I guess Ms. Bensley and Ms. Merritt will notify us that citizens would like to speak, and we can do them as we can. In Additional statement, we have important preservation issues to discuss and debate at each meeting. Please limit your comments to the specific preservation submission being reviewed. We ask for your assistance and understanding so that the discussions do not digress. As an additional comment, we can all agree that historic preservation is an important aspect of the quality of life and place that makes Baltimore County unique. As a commission, we seek to recommend significant buildings and places for landmark consideration to the County Council for their final vote. As commissioners, we serve on the commission due to our expertise, interest, and passion for historic buildings and places, and review submissions based solely on their merit. While we may disagree in discussion and voting, we continue to be a collegial body that respects each other personally and professionally. Ms. Merritt and Ms. Bensley, do you want to give us a review of what we see on the screen here?
Sure. So just some reminders for commenting. You can comment at any time during the meeting by using your chat feature, by just sending it to the host and with your name, the agenda item you want to comment on, your relationship to the property or project, and then staff will read your comments at the appropriate time when your application or the agenda item you wanted to comment on is being reviewed. Also, if the applicant wishes to address the LPC themselves rather than submitting a chat comment, they're more than welcome to do so. Just let myself know through either the chat feature or at the time when your application is being reviewed, just let them know that you're available to answer any questions from the LPC. You can either raise the hand feature, or select the hand raise button that's next to your name, so that we know that you're there, that you're willing to answer any questions, and I will unmute you to talk.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Merritt. Any changes to today's agenda?
No. Also, another reminder, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Just wanted to remind everyone that the things that are presented on the presentation are just an overview and summary of the applications. It's not an entire application packet. And for the attendees to the meeting that have an item on the agenda, the LPC receives a meeting packet with all application materials a week before, so they have an opportunity to review and prepare for the meeting, so that they're not using the materials on the presentation for review. It's just more of visual to help the meeting move along. I just wanted to give that little disclaimer. All right.
There are no changes to today's agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Bensley. Knowing that we've all read the minutes from the May 14th online meeting that we last have, are there any comments or changes to the meeting minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
So moved.
A second.
Second is, who was that?
Vince.
Vince. Thank you, Vince. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Minutes pass unanimously. Thank you. Ms. Merritt, would you like to review the consent agenda items?
Sure. Oh, I didn't hear you. Sure, you can.
Okay, agenda item number 4, it's the Cherry property located at 5128 South Rolling Road. It's a contributing structure in the Relay County Historic District, MIS number BA2520. The proposal is for the replacement of deteriorated double garage doors. Staff's recommendation is to vote to issue a certificate of appropriateness, citing Baltimore County Historic Design Guidelines, windows and doors, pages 1, 7, and 8, and fences and landscape, page 5, and County Code Section 327-403. Agenda item number 5 is the Clank property at 945 Oella Avenue. It's a contributing structure in the Oella National Register Historic District, MIS number BA2093. The proposal is for Part 2 approval for the replacement of existing half-ground gutters. Staff's recommendation is to vote to issue a certificate of appropriateness, citing Baltimore County Historic Design Guidelines, roofs, pages 5 and 10, and County Code Section 11.2.201. The next consent agenda item is agenda item number 7, which is the Sesnick property at 907 Adana Road. It is a contributing structure in expansion 2 of the Sudbury Park County Historic District. The proposal is for the installation of a 48-inch picket fence in the side and rear yard. Staff's recommendation is to vote to issue a certificate of appropriateness, citing Baltimore County Historic Design Guidelines, Fences and Landscape, page 4, and County Code Section 327403. Agenda item number 8 is the Davenport House, Bellevue, the Bank Barn, Wagon House, Garden House, and Setting. It's the Mitchell property located at 2101 Mount Carmel Road in Parkton. Its final landmark number 376, MIP number BA580. The proposal is for Part 2 approval for the repair of the barn door hinge and the repainting of the roof and the north, south, and east facades of the barn. Staff's recommendation is to vote to issue a certificate of appropriateness, citing Baltimore County Historic Design Guidelines, Facade Materials, page 11, and National Park Service Technical Preservation Services Preservation Brief number 10, Exterior Paint Problems on Historic Wood, and County Code Section 11.2.201. The final consent agenda item is agenda item number 11, the Almond property at 663 Murdoch Road. It's a contributing structure in the Rogers Forge National Register Historic District. The proposal is for Part 2 approval for the installation of an HVAC system. Staff's recommendation is to vote to issue a certificate of appropriateness, citing National Park Service Technical Preservation Services Preservation Brief number 24, Heating, Ventilating, and Cooling Historic Buildings, Problems and Recommended Approaches, and County Code Section 11.2.201.
Thank you, Ms. Bensley. Is there anyone who wishes to speak against the approval of any of these items, or does any commission member wish to have a further discussion on the item before we vote? Are we getting any response from the attendees?
No, we have no one.
Okay, very good. No response from the commissioners. So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
So moved. Ed Horde.
Second.
Second, David Thaler.
Thank you, David. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Items for discussion.
All right, so agenda item number 6, the Rockland Barn and Milk House located at 10214 Falls Road. It's a final landmark number 280. The proposal is for the replacement of a 3-tab asphalt shingle roof with a standing seam metal roof to match the existing cupola. The application involves the replacement of the roof of the Rockland Barn, which is the final landmark number 280, added to the final landmarks list in April of 2006. The site is northeast of Rockland Mansion and is a frame construction on a stone foundation. It's clad in board and batten siding and displays the Italian influence in its bracketed eaves, a broad cross gable, and a cupola. The existing roof is a 3-tab asphalt shingle roof that is nearing the end of its life, and the applicant is proposing to replace the roof with a standing seam metal roof. The roof of the barn the original roof of the barn was most likely cedar. However, with the vegetative growth existing on the asphalt shingles, currently the applicant does not feel cedar will work well long term. Instead of proposing cedar and needing to repair and replace it in the next few years, the applicant is seeking approval for a metal roof, which will handle moisture better than cedar and will match the existing cupola, as the cupola already features a standing seam metal roof. The proposed roof will be a traditional 1-inch double lock standing seam with 16-inch to 19-inch panels, with the final width to be determined following a shop drawing process. Based on the information provided in the historic review application, staff feels the proposed replacement material is appropriate to the style and age of the barn. Standing seam metal roofs have been used on other barns of similar age and style. Because the original roofing metals most likely would have been wood shingles. Synthetic wood shingles would also be an appropriate replacement material to consider. Synthetic wood shingles have the look of traditional wood roofs without the maintenance of wood and have a longer lifespan than traditional wood shingle roofs. Staff is in support of a standing seam metal roof as proposed or synthetic wood shingle roofing material and encourages the commission to discuss materials. A recommendation is to vote to issue a certificate of appropriateness on authority for action and citing the Baltimore County Historic Design Guidelines, roof, page 6, 8 through 9, and the National Park Service Preservation Brief number 4, roofing for historic buildings, and citing County Code section 327-403.
Great, thank you, Ms. Merritt. Is the owner online or available to speak about the project?
No, he is not.
Okay, very good. So you've asked us to discuss the materials, the metal versus the synthetic wood. Who would like to start?
I would like to ask the age of the building, when it was built.
It's a late 19th century barn.
It's about 1870, I think. You hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I went back and did a little research. The use of standing seam probably is more prevalent in this country after the Civil War, but it was developed in the 1820s when they took tin plate and improved on it. But tin plate could be made in standing seam or a flat seam. So it actually started with the manufacturing capability of a rolling mill in order to make the sheets. But anyway, so this barn here, at some time during its prominence, probably had a metal roof at some point.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that. I'm guessing on the age, just I didn't find any mark on any stone or anything like that. But anyway, I would recommend the standing seam metal. I think it would look great. It would be appropriate historically, and it would last. It would give you your money's worth.
I agree.
Yeah, I concur.
Me too, better than shingles.
Very good.
It's David Thaler. I completely concur. I think Rockland's a little bit older than late 19th century, though.
Yeah. It was like 1820s on tin plate, and then even corrugation was like 1850s. So,
I just think it's an entirely appropriate selection. One, that's what they want. It's appropriate. We should approve it.
All right, very good. Thank you for your research, Steve. And would you like to make a motion?
yes, make a motion, move to issue a certificate of appropriateness for the re-roofing of the Rockland barn, referencing all the code and standards of the Department of the Interior that apply to this project.
Very good. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
There's a name in there somewhere.
There's a couple of us, but Mitch Kelman, second.
Okay, take it, Mitch. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Right. Agenda item 9, the Brooks property at 3609 Blackstone Road in Fieldstone. It's a vacant lot in the Fieldstone County Historic District. The proposal is amended drawings for an infill construction of a 2-story home with a side load attached garage. So just some background on the project. In February 2020, the commission reviewed plans for a 2-story infill development with an attached side load 2-bay garage. The home was originally proposed, was overall consistent with the Fieldstone County Historic District and the Baltimore County Historic Design Guidelines, and the commission ultimately offered conditional approval for the plans. A certificate of appropriateness was issued with the following conditions, and this was back in February. The siding on the front and left and right elevations was to be 8 1/4 hardy plank horizontal lap siding with trim, with the exception of the roof gables, which was to feature a frieze board, straight edge panel, hardy shingles, and gable vents. There were going to be 2 windows that were added to the second floor of the right elevation, and the light fixtures were to be a carriage style and only featured around the front entry and the garage doors. Upon making the changes, the changes that the commission's requested, the property owner, Mr. Gary Brooks, realized that the home was out of his price range, so he is now seeking approval for amended drawings. Since the original drawings, the following changes have been made to the following elevation. So on the front elevation, the updated drawings reflect that the garage is now bumped out rather than being flush against the home as originally proposed. Mr. Brooks informed staff that this change was due to the shrinking size of the home, and bumping out the garage is now necessary in order to keep the front elevation consistent with what the commission originally approved, while allowing enough room for a vehicle to fit inside the garage. On the right elevation, the updated drawings reflect that a portion of the first floor at the rear of the dwelling, but visible from the right elevation, has been removed. This change is due to the removal of the optional sunroom on the original drawings. Due to cost, Mr. Brooks has chosen to omit the sunroom, instead wishing to add a nice deck in the future, which will require approval from the commission. In the conditional approval, the commission wished to see 2 windows on the second floor of the right elevation. Both of these windows have been added. However, they do not match in size because the smaller window is in the laundry room and there is limited space for a window. On the rear elevation, as mentioned with the comments on the right elevation, the updated drawings reflect the removal of the optional sunroom at the rear of the home. Along with the removal of the sunroom, the updated drawings reflect a change in the sliding glass patio doors. Originally, 2 sliding glass doors were proposed, whereas now only 1 is depicted. Mr. Brooks informed the staff that this was an oversight on the original drawings and there should have always been 1 door shown as reflected on the new drawings. The patio door also now has safety railing shown on the drawings. On the left elevation, it shows a bump out of the garage as discussed with the comments. For the front elevation, 1 small window on the first floor of the elevation was removed. Wrought iron railing was added to the elevation. Both original and amended drawings can be found in the meeting materials that were sent last week. None of the materials have changed. None of the materials have changed since the original submission, with the exception of the lighting, which was a part of the conditional approval of the drawings from February. Overall, staff feels the drawings are still consistent with the Fieldstone County Historic District and our Baltimore County Historic Guidelines. The proposed home is consistent with previously approved plans and is harmonious with the district in terms of material size, massing scale, orientation, setback, and design. Our recommendation is to vote to issue a certificate of appropriateness and authority for actions, citing our Baltimore County Historic Design Guidelines, chapters on additions and infills, pages 1 through 7, the Fieldstone Historic District Design Guidelines, which were adopted in November 2003, and the County Code Section 327-403.
Thank you, Ms. Merritt. Is the owner with us today?
He is. He has raised his hand and wishes to address the commission. I'm going to unmute you, Mr. Brooks.
Very good.
Well, good evening, everybody.
Hello, Mr. Brooks, welcome.
All right. So, is there any questions for me?
I think you've improved on your project based on our comments, and I think based on the drawings, they look much more legible and clearer than they did previously.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
We appreciate that. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
I have one small concern. On the rear elevation, the second floor cantilevers out over the first floor by a couple of feet. That's not a normal sort of situation that you would see in a historic building. This is, I mean, sort of what you would see in subdivisions, you know, currently and or for the past 50 years or so, but it's not something you'd see sort of in the Fieldstone Historic District. I don't believe. I mean, I could be wrong. Show me one.
Mr. Brooks, is the second floor bigger than the first floor?
No, the second floor is the same.
Why on the left side elevation and the right side elevation does the second floor cantilever out over the first floor on those two elevations?
Let me see where you're talking.
Look at the right side elevation, right side of it. The left side elevation, the left side. There's both. You have a bump out, a cantilever of the second floor over the first floor.
Let me see.
Maybe you could move the cursor, Ms. Merritt or Ms. Bensley.
Let me see.
It's the second from left image on the bottom row.
Yeah.
Got you. Okay.
There we go. That works.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. And I do what you're talking about. Yes, it does.
That should not happen. It won't cost you a penny more to drop it straight down.
Yeah, I know it
More square footage.
it was increasing the size of the bedroom.
What's that?
It was to increase the size of the bedroom because I have 3 bedrooms going across. And so that's
fine. Just drop the first floor, make the first floor a little bigger. It's practically free space for you.
Got you.
I mean, it is the cheapest square footage you will ever buy.
Mm-hmm.
It is. You should just do that. I mean, it's going to save you money and it'll look better and you'll get more square footage.
Got you.
Do it.
Okay. That is.
That's my.
To Mr. Horde, I understand his comments and I appreciate them, but I'm not willing to make that requirement. If other people would like to vote, then, you know.
That's my suggestion. You can
Oh, I hear you.
Okay.
I have a question. I want to know the setback of this house. Is going to align to the neighboring houses or where in the lot to be?
Yes, it will align to the neighboring houses.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Brooks, this is Chris Weston. I just have a suggestion on the front porch. What you have there is a turn gable that's intersecting a shed roof. And so that is going to collect water and channel it toward that bump out on the front. And I think that's going to cause you a lifetime of headaches in terms of water, trying to keep water out of that area. So I would suggest deleting the turn gable. It's your house. It's just a suggestion.
Got you. Okay.
So you would advocate a shed roof, Mr. Weston?
That is correct.
I would agree.
Chris, were you talking about over the front door or over the 3-bay part?
I'm talking about over the front door.
Okay.
Aesthetically, there's a turn gable there, but in terms of flashing conditions, it's draining water. Yeah, it's draining. It's collecting and funneling water towards a confined area. I'm just concerned about rot in the long term.
You get a snowstorm, you get ice damming there. It's not going to be good.
I can see.
That's a good suggestion.
Okay. That makes sense.
So this is Rob Brennan. I would agree on both points on the front porch roof. The overhang that you show is, I'm from Connecticut, so I know it is a Garrison Colonial because it was in Deerfield, Massachusetts. These were little forts. Every house was a fort, and there was a bench on the second floor that would lift up, and you could pour hot water or oil or shoot down through the opening as they were, as the disruptors, the Native Americans were trying to break down your door, so.
Or the British.
Or the British. Right.
That's
So,
British.
so I think that detail is not necessarily one you would see in Fieldstone, so I would agree on that point.
Should I make a proposal?
Certainly, motion, yes.
Motion, yeah, I vote that we issue a certificate of appropriateness, citing the relative authorities that are listed in the action items. And with the following caveats, that the front, a suggestion that the front gable be a shed and not a return gable. And on the back to take the second floor, take the second floor straight down so that we don't have the cantilevered section of the second floor.
Gotcha.
Is there a second?
So moved.
All right, are we ready to vote? Mr. Brooks, do you have additional comments?
No, so if I make these changes, do I have to come back the following month again to?
No.
Okay.
We're good.
All right.
We'll move to a vote then. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay. It's John.
John Schmidt. Very good. Thank you, John. Motion carries, and congratulations. Thank you.
All right, moving on to agenda item number 10, the Kelly property at 4948 Tulip Avenue in Relay. This is a non-contributing structure in the Relay County Historic District. The proposal is amended plans for an ex post facto approval of a 30-foot by 40-foot garage with a height of 14.5 feet. It has a code enforcement correction notice of Z20085. At last month's meeting, the commission reviewed a request for an ex post facto approval of the 30-foot by 30-foot metal garage. Ultimately, the commission denied the approval, feeling that the garage was inappropriate for the district, citing facade materials, design, size, masking, and scale as primary reasons. Following the meeting, the homeowner spoke with staff on ways to remedy the situation and now wishes to propose cladding the garage in order to satisfy the commission's concerns with the facade and design without having to demolish the structure. As a reminder, the current garage is 30 feet by 30 feet with a height of 4.5 feet tall. It's fully enclosed metal and is located at the rear of the yard. It has a standard door that measures 36 inches by 80 inches and a 8-foot by 8-foot wide roll-up garage door. In photos, the garage appears to take up the majority of the width of the rear of the yard and is much taller than the other garages on either side of the property. The size, scale, and massing materials of the new garage are not compatible with the principal dwelling and the surrounding historic district. Following the May meeting, the applicant informed staff the garage did not violate any zoning requirements, and measurements of the garage from the fence are provided in this month's meeting materials, which you all received. Additionally, the applicant contested that the size and lot coverage of the garage was not consistent with the district following a drive around the Relay Historic District. The applicant provided photos of garages and accessory structures near his home that he feels are compatible with the size of this one that he had installed. Some of the photos provided showed larger, like non-garage accessory structures that were most likely original carriage houses in the district that were converted to other uses. And the provided photos also showed other contributing and non-contributing accessory structures and garages that were likely constructed or added on prior to the Relay becoming a county historic district in 1996. In efforts to address the commission's concerns with the metal garage, the applicant is now proposing to clad the garage in a beige Dutch lap vinyl siding. The proposed siding is 4.5 inches by 24 inches and has a wood grain surface. And the applicant is also proposing an American Craftsman 35 1/8 inch by 59 1/4 inch single hung vinyl window with nailing flange and colonial grills. Photos of these are provided to you in your meeting packets. With the proposed improvements, staff feels that the property owner and applicant are headed in the correct direction. However, there are still concerns regarding the materials, including if there would be a change to the material of the garage door and roof. Additionally, the applicant is proposing vinyl siding to cover the existing metal. While this is an improvement, the use of vinyl does not comply with our design guidelines. Along with concerns on material, staff feels that the garage's size is not compatible with the properties in the immediate neighborhood, particularly the height of the structure, not so much the footprint of the structure. As with infill development, new accessory structures would be comparable with other buildings in the immediate neighborhood, that is the buildings within a half block of the subject lot and with the lots on both sides of the street on which the lot fronts. The recommendation is to not vote to not issue a certificate of appropriateness or a notice to proceed, citing Baltimore County Historic Design Guidelines. Additions and infill, pages 4 through 7, fences and landscapes, page 5, and County Code sections 32.7, 403, and 32.7, 405.
Thank you, Ms. Merritt. Well, we remember this project, of course, and while we can't speak, I'm sorry, Ms. Merritt, is the owner in the room with us?
Yes, he is.
Very good to see. He has something to he'd like to say.
We'll go ahead and do you want to unmute him and he can chat? Yeah. So we'll go ahead and unmute him and he can chat with you guys. Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, how you doing?
And so if you could state your name and address, that would be great.
Ryan Brown, 4948 Tulip Avenue. Historic Relay 21227.
Very good, thank you. Would you like to make a statement on your project?
So I did drive around in the immediate neighborhood and saw garages larger than mine, same size as mine, and no windows. One of them had 3 big doors on it. Some of them have roll-up doors, and so ours fits in. Ours is not bigger than it can be. We're willing to put the vinyl siding because I sent pictures. The vinyl siding that we have would match the house, our house, and I submitted pictures of other big garages that had vinyl siding there as well, not that far from our house, across the street basically. So we're trying to make our best effort to make this fit what you guys' standards are. We also, like you said, we put the window there. We can replace the door. We can put a different door in. We're willing to do that too. Talking about the roll-up door.
Mm-hmm. What would you suggest there? What?
Swing out doors just like the historic doors of the other garages. But yeah, I mean, that was last hope that we didn't have to do that, but because of all the other ones that have 3 garage doors in them. But to get it approved, we're only here to get it approved. We'll do what you say. We wanted to cloud the outside to make it look identical to the house. We wanted to add the windows because during the first meeting they said that they wanted windows in it. And as far as the roll-up door, if you can see the picture and you got the door in the little garage next to you, we could put that style door on there to match it, to look just like that.
Very good. And who is speaking? Could we get your name?
Ryan's father.
I'm sorry?
Michael Brown, Ryan's father.
Oh, very good. Okay. Thank you. So I think can't speak to the zoning requirements or the building code requirements other than, but what we can speak to is the appropriateness in the historic district. It is your historic district, and you know, we're stewards of Baltimore County historic districts and houses, and want to see the best possible outcome for those districts. So that's the basis of our discussion here, and I'll open it up to the commissioners.
Understood.
I have some comments. To me, this is, you know, a very small step that doesn't solve the problem to me, which is the massing and size and materials. Adding one window and making vinyl siding, which is really not appropriate for the neighborhood, is not a good solution. This to me is not anywhere near what it needs to be. I think it needs to be redone, smaller and shorter, smaller. It ought to be more compatible with the adjacent garages. I mean, this is what should be there. I cannot accept this.
I totally agree with you. The problem is the massing. Like, you can disguise the way you want it, but it's gonna be so visible. And because your neighbors have it, doesn't mean that you can have it too. You don't know the circumstances that the other ones were approved, or if they were there before the district became a district. So we are judging your project, not the other ones.
I'm inclined to agree with Ed and Marina. I was not privy to the conversation last month, but I've read through the minutes, and I just don't see enough of a movement towards compatibility with the guidelines. I'm sympathetic, but you know what? I don't even want to couch it. I'm really not sympathetic because it's a 1,200 square foot, 1.5 story metal garage that's been planted down in the historic district, and it's not appropriate.
It's Dave Thaler. I concur with the prior speakers. It just doesn't fit.
This is Vince Johnson. Yeah, let me see. Am I unmuted?
You're on.
I can hear you.
Okay, all right. Is it Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Okay. So I have to say I agree also with the other commissioners, but I was curious because it is noticeably larger than the other garages. What is your, not being facetious, what is your plan for the garage? I mean, is there some reason why it needed to be the size that it is?
Storage. We have a lot of stuff to store. There's going to be 7 people in my house, as we have a daughter going to be next month, and we were moving stuff out, and got lawn. I put it in the last meeting, but we have lawn equipment in there. I have gym equipment in there. I have mats. I have vacation materials. We got 7 bikes in there. And I don't know if you guys also saw, I sent pictures of what the garage looks like overhanging the fence. And if you look at it from the side street over it's not looking as big as it does in these pictures. Our property goes uphill, so it makes it look larger than it is. We can't help that our neighbors have small garages right next to our house. Everywhere else in the neighborhood, they have large garages. I mean, even across the street from us, they're building on an addition to their house that is larger than our house. An addition to their house that's larger than our house. We need a little bit more room, so we needed this garage for more storage. And we're trying to do whatever we can to make it work. Whatever you guys suggest to make it work without having to make it smaller, because it already cost a lot of money, and that would really hurt us.
Mm-hmm. So the grading in the back, you say, is what gives it that additional look of being much larger than everything else. Okay, if I grant you that,
I don't believe it.
What I'm saying is, if I would grant you that, then I still would have to agree with the fact that it in that area, that historic neighborhood community, it does, even if I grant you that, it still sticks out in terms of the look of the rest of the neighborhood. That's something that you almost can't get around.
We would make it match the house. I mean, it would look identical to the house, and that's what some of the garages look like. I really would beg you guys to drive around our neighborhood and see the other garages. Just take pictures, you just don't see it. You can't see it.
Mr. Brown, this is Rob Brennan. I did look at the examples that you included in your submission of the other garages, and they seem to be more barn-like, perhaps more carriage house-like. Excuse me. And I think your better option, rather than make this look like the house, might be to make it look more like a barn.
I agree.
That might be board and batten siding. I don't. Could be another garage door to make it look more like a carriage house. Could be
or windows.
More windows or transoms maybe to give it a more residential scale.
We can do that stuff.
A different slope roof, so it's not so. This has got a very low slope on it.
Yes,
it would be great for a. I mean, I think the whole height of the walls are it's just way too big. It just does not look good. It would be great in an industrial park. I mean, it'd be fine for, take it to an industrial park, sell it to somebody, move it. But this is, as it is right now, is not appropriate for relay. And I don't know, I mean, it's a big change. It's not just sort of slapping on vinyl siding on one window. It's not going to do it. I mean, you got to make it look more materials ought to be better. The roof slopes ought to be better. It ought to be, the wall shouldn't be 1.5 stories high. I mean, it just looks way out of scale for what.
Can I get a word in? This is Gordon Kelly. I'm the owner of the property. Unless you're looking at these pictures or you're in a helicopter, who's going to see this so-called, the way you guys are making it sound so high? You can see it. You can't even see it from our front street through our fence. So if it's such a sore eye to everybody, who's seeing it? Unless you're in a helicopter.
Well, this looms over your neighbor's fences, so it's twice as high as your neighbor's fence.
Around the entire neighborhood, you can't even see the garage. You guys should get down there. I don't know if any of you have even been down there to look at the site, but you can't see it from any corner. You can't see it from our front street.
This is Chris Weston.
It's such a terrible eyesight. I mean, but that's what you're all saying, but I mean, but nobody can see it unless we show you pictures of it.
Mr. Weston?
It's Dave Thaler. Mr. Chairman, I think it's time to call the question.
All right. Mr. Weston,
Can I say one more thing? Or can I make a statement? It seems like everybody on this board here has gotten a lot more professional since last time. I mean, one of your board members last time, we couldn't see who they were, said that could it get any uglier? And then somebody else made a suggestion that, by not having windows, it makes it suspicious that we're back there doing something we shouldn't be doing. Are these meetings here being recorded, something that an attorney can get a hold of?
Mr. Chairman, I think it's time we call the question.
I'm asking you a question. Can my lawyer get a transcript of these hearings?
I'm sure he could, yes.
These are public meetings, sir. Yes, they're public meetings. There is a transcript available.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Is this appealable to the court?
No, LPC decisions are not appealable. You can request an amended plan like you're doing now, but they ultimately have the final say on what is and is not permitted in a historic district.
It just appears that nobody on this board has any desire whatsoever to go out and look at the properties that my son-in-law's father took pictures of garages that are our size and bigger, right in the same neighborhood. Everybody keeps talking about how big it is. We want to make it look more relay. So, we suggested making it more relay looking. But if it's the size, then that needs to be heard by somebody else, because it sounds like there's some bias going on here. Because there's other garages in that exact neighborhood that size and bigger and a hell of a lot uglier.
Ms. Bensley and Ms. Merritt, is there an additional zoning issue? This is Chris Weston. Is there an additional zoning issue with this garage for bulk and setbacks?
I can give you what the setback from a zoning standpoint are 2.5 feet to the side and rear property line. It's considered an accessory structure, so it's no closer than 2.5 feet to the property lines, no higher than 15 feet in height. And the height is determined from the highest point of natural grade where it hits the building, the peak of the roof. And the garage cannot take up more than 40% of the rear yard area, which is anything towards the rear of the rear foundation line, if that makes sense.
And continuing on what Mitch just said, I did speak with code enforcement about this earlier in the week. Once the project has been approved by you all, say that you were to approve it with conditions, the applicant would need a permit for it. The permit would be ex post facto, but they still require a permit. At that point in time, if there were any code enforcement issues, say with lot coverage, at that point it would be flagged. However, since there's no permit in the system yet, code enforcement isn't sure if they would have any additional issues with it besides the historic review.
We're not.
Excuse me.
It's not our purview.
Permit about zoning. Our charge is strictly compatibility in the neighborhood.
Exactly.
I do want to ask this question. Was a permit issued for the construction of the structure we're looking at?
No.
Doesn't it have to be? How can you build a garage without a permit?
That's why we're looking at it.
It was constructed without a permit and brought to our attention via a code complaint from a constituent.
All right. Well, okay. This is David Thaler. It just doesn't belong here. It's too big. It's the mass is wrong. The scale is wrong. The design is wrong. The proportions are wrong. It doesn't belong. Mr. Chairman, I think it's time to ask for a motion and then call the question.
I actually would like to say one more thing, David. I'm not trying to prolong the conversation, but I do think that we should do better to address, I think it was Mr. Kelly's questions. And what I can respond there is there's a number of things that we look at in terms of appropriateness that are specific to historic preservation guidelines. For those outbuildings or accessory buildings that are in the historic district that are larger or of comparable size to the building that is constructed in the back of this property, they may predate the nomination of the historic district. I can't say for that myself. I don't recall having seen an application come forward for a building of similar size or scale in my time on this board. With regard to the building itself, yes, it's the materials that you've heard people talk about that we're really wrestling with. Also, you'll note that I do want to say, because nobody else did mention this, but I know we're all feeling the same way. Thank you for going out to provide comparable examples. That's helpful to us. We all do have day jobs, and it's not possible for all of us to get out there and take a look. So it is helpful for you to provide those photographs. But at the same time, you can see differences. I think Ed mentioned that you've got 1-story height of the walls and 3 bays that are symmetrical on the comparable examples that you provided to us. And what you have erected, or the property owner has erected, has an asymmetrical outlook. It's built with galvanized steel, and it's large and out of mass and out of scale with the remaining, with the outbuildings that are adjacent. Somebody earlier in the conversation mentioned that a way to rectify this might be to make it more similar to a barn. If you put up clapboard siding or board and batten, I think it might have been Rob mentioned, change the roofing materials. We're talking about significant expenses, but that might be an effort if you came to us with that design that would show a level of effort that I think, me personally, I would appreciate in changing the massing of the building. Vinyl siding and adding a minor window.
At our house yet? Has anybody on this board looked at our house? It was built in 1940, and it looks like before I bought it like 6 years ago. It looks like somebody just sided it within the last 10 years. So it's got a pretty modern siding on it. If you looked at our house, in 1940, I don't think.
I can't speak to that prior. I don't have knowledge.
We've talked about this. We're not getting anywhere. I think we need to call the question and make.
Let's do it. Mr. Schmidt, would you like to make a motion?
Sure. I vote not to issue a certificate of appropriateness based on the code cited in the recommendation by staff, guidelines and additions and infill, pages 4 through 7, fences and landscape, page 5, county code, sections 32-7-403 and 32-7-405.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. All opposed to the motion? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Brown, and I do hope you'll entertain our suggestions on materials and perhaps making more barn-like. Take it the next level, and you may find more approval there.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was the final project that we had up for discussion. This item to be reported on, the following historic property tax credit application was approved by staff following MHT approval. It was the Williams property at 703 Stoneley Road. They had MHT approval for exterior painting, an in-kind rebuild of porch steps and stairs, and a roof replacement over an existing sunroom. County Council District 5.
Thank you, Ms. Bensley. Ms. Mara, would you like to speak about the value-added agricultural group?
Sure. I'll address it a little bit. So today, Rob and I were sitting on a meeting addressing a resolution for agricultural buildings on how to solve issues with reusing them for either agricultural purposes or for other purposes, and addressing some the historic and addressing how to go about adaptive reusing historic agricultural buildings or agricultural buildings in general. It was just a work session to figure out issues that people are dealing with. There's going to be a couple more meetings over the next couple of weeks discussing what different counties are doing in Maryland and elsewhere. And there are a lot of case studies out there using historic barns or other historic outbuildings for alternate uses. And there's probably a lot of uses where instances where tax credits can be involved. So,
Thank you. I'll just read the resolution purpose of the Value-Added Agricultural Buildings Work Group. To review how other jurisdictions treat agricultural buildings used for value-added agricultural purposes. I believe that's vineyards and breweries and creameries and other money making opportunities, and make recommendations on how to balance interests of public safety, historical and agricultural preservation, and future business interests. So the county is moving on a controversial item for the farmers and for the people who are interested in repurposing old barns. So that's a good thing. Consensus, direction. So do any commissioners out there have any comments, questions, or anything they'd like to mention or discuss?
Rob, this is Vince. For what you were just talking about, is that basically saying these are structures that are not being used, or the use is limited, and they're trying to come up with ways to I think the word was repurpose their use? Is that what it's?
Well, apparently the agricultural buildings now, barns are not subject to any code requirements. So the ones that have been built over the past couple hundred years continue to be used, but now they're starting to be modified into other things that are no longer primarily agricultural in use.
Okay.
So there's code issues, there's health, safety, and welfare issues for the general public, bathrooms and accessibility, parking. You know, it becomes a bigger project that it's hard for the county to administer, or difficult to administer.
And this is in Baltimore County or different counties or different jurisdictions?
This is for Baltimore County, but other counties have dealt with it. Chester County, apparently in Pennsylvania, and Lancaster County have good regulations in place that allow for flexibility. So I guess the county now is looking at the best case scenarios that exist out there.
Good. Thanks.
Sure. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Brennan, can
Yes,
you
sir.
see a viewer's or an attendee comment from Joseph Barnt?
No. Is this a chat?
Yes.
Um,
Can anyone else see that?
no.
I do see it. Would it be possible to ask the committee at the meetings? Oh, whoa, okay. Would it be possible to ask? I can't see it all, but I can see it now.
I can see it. It says, would it be possible to ask the committee at the meeting's conclusion how we would go about having our home recognized as historic? We've been in talks with Maryland Historic Trust, and they suggested that we attend this meeting. Thank you.
Oh. Well, thanks for that question. I guess I'll defer to staff on that.
Yeah, so I was going to say, Joseph, if you want to reach out to staff directly, we'd be happy to provide the forms and documentations that you'll need in order to have your property designated.
Or you can either give us a phone call to have a chat about what it means to be designated and what it entails and that sort of thing too as well.
Very good. Well, we welcome your stewardship, so please contact the commission. So, Mr. Thaler, I guess this is the last we'll see your face on the screen, huh? As you move on. So again,
I'm not aware.
Yes, well, thank you again for your service, and it's been great fun, and I've enjoyed you personally and professionally, so thank you again.
Thank you, David.
We'll miss you.
I think you're on mute. You were just there a second ago.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Now I can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, first of all, this is going to be my last meeting. I've lost count. I think it's been 10 or 12 years. It's been a great honor and a great privilege, and I really can't express or articulate how much I have come to respect and really have deep affection for all the members on the board. I think this is an excellent new commission. I couldn't be more pleased. Taylor, you have just done a fantastic job filling in for Terry. You just never missed a step. I think it's kind of amazing that almost every issue, virtually every issue that we decided was unanimous. It was there might have been one or two in opposition, but the board was almost always in consensus. And if I could just sort of give a tiny bit of parting advice, I would remind the new members that while we've all come on because we're historic groupies of one variety or another, that we all love historic preservation, we're not an advocacy group. It's hard to remember sometimes. We're a hearing body, and we're like a panel of judges, as we were tonight. I thought in a somewhat a controversial matter, but we're like a panel of judges, and it's our job or the commission's job to enforce the law. So I wish you all well. I hope I'll see, everybody around. I'll hope, I'll get to see what Caitlin looks like one day, maybe on the street. And interestingly enough, a client of ours has purchased the Choate House, which is just a wonderful late Victorian property that we put on the preliminary list not too long ago. And I'm hopeful that in the not too distant future, I'll be back with an adaptive reuse of that house. So thank you. It's been a great privilege, and goodbye to all.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
Take care.
So with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
In favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous too. There we go, consensus.
The motion to attend, or who made the motion to adjourn?
I did, Steve.
Perfect, thank you, Steve. And who was our second?
Me, Ed Horde.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, I guess another meeting next month.
See you a month from now.
See you then.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody.
Take care.
Fun.